Go for it.
right? And I've spoken to a few men about this. How can a man truly be a man when he's afraid to speak his deepest truth to his own mother or father?
Oh, I love this question so much. So the other thing that I love is that the decision to record this conversation came out of, I want to honor the respect that it came out of an angel number, because that is also a really important part of this, right? So there is a transition that a man makes. We'll speak specifically about men because women have one, but it's slightly different. But a man makes a transition during his life from child to leader. And he goes from the son of the family, the child in the family, and where he is at the mercy of the authority, to becoming the leader where he chooses to run the family, right? He's decided that daddy no longer knows best or mummy no longer knows best, and chooses to take true responsibility.
Mm,
Now, this used to happen in a tribal structure through the formal rites of passage, when a child would be taken from boyhood through the hunting process, through the tattooing initiations, through their first kill or their first warrior instinct training, right? And being given the process to become a man, which we don't have in society anymore. I believe that's why as coaches we are so important, because we don't have those roles. We don't have the mentoring and the leaders. So what's happening is a child essentially has no responsibility, because anything they need is given to them. They are completely dependent. Humans are born completely dependent. Then they go into rebellion phase, and you and I have spoken about this a lot. The rebellion phase is a critical phase. It's like, okay, so I see your rules, but I'm going to test your rules, because to a child, the rules are just dumb. All they are is just, I'm having fun and you won't let me have fun. Then when they become an adult, they're like, oh, you're not letting me have fun because that costs a shit ton of money and that takes a lot of energy to pay the power bill, to pay for the fun that I was just having. Gotcha. Right. So there is that journey from reliance to rebellion to results to realization, the other model that we've used a bit. But this one in particular is critically important. So when a man chooses to a true masculine, like when he really chooses to become a man, it's when he steps out of rebellion phase, steps out of dependency phase. So he's not dependent on his mum. He's not only obeying his father's rules. He's decided, thank you for the upbringing. I am grateful for the rules that we have in place for the tribe. I am grateful for the wisdom. I am grateful for the support and the nourishment. However, I can see that the world has changed. So thank you, parent. But I am choosing, it's now my job to lead the family forward.
mm,
So there is a point where a man needs to make the decision to go from child of the family to head of the family, leader of the family. Now, in modern society, some boys never make that choice. They can get married, but they are still children. They just go from child of mother to child of wife, which is why their sex life sucks,
absolutely.
right? So a child also has abundance of, like, a full cup of worthiness, because they don't know they're not worthy until they're taught they're not worthy. But they have no sense of self. They've got no identity of self, which means they have no self-esteem either, because they have nothing there. Like, they start full of love, and until that's eroded by the tribe or the village or the parental unit. But if that has been eroded, they have nothing of themselves. They've got no stability of themselves, nothing that they can be self-reliant on. So if they have an emotional meltdown, mummy's going to fix it, or daddy's going to slap it out of them, or whatever. But the adulting, the parenting is going to step in. So what happens is these children are getting into relationships, and then this works for men and women, right? Both. They're getting into these relationships, and then they're having a tantrum and expecting mummy, daddy to fix it. They're not actually being an equal partner in the relationship. They are just either lucky enough to get a woman who wants so desperately to be a parent, she's happy with 3 children, the 2 kids and the husband, but they're still acting as a child, right? You've seen this. And I guarantee that a adult man, a man child who is still dependent on his partner for all of his needs emotionally, even if he's financially supporting him, and this is the biggest lie told for everybody, is oh, but I bought her the latest Audi. Why doesn't she want to have sex with me? Well, she's not a fucking prostitute, right? You're being a child. You're acting as a child. She's not going to have sex with a child. So your sex life is going to suck. So if they are still in little boy, and I witnessed this with boys that want to be with someone that they love, but the village, the values of their tribe, whether that's their parent, daddy says you should be with someone younger, so he can't be with someone older, right? Or all the pack, all the boys say I should still want my freedom, and don't let your woman tell you what to do, right? And all of these rules that the boyhood, the boys club make up, they are value sets. They are what we call memes, which are commonly agreed on value sets of the tribe, and they're all the tribal values. It's only when the child decides, I am going to lead, I respect what I've learned, I'm not rebelling against it, because there's a lot of great stuff in there. But you know what, Dad? You're getting old. You know what, Mum? You actually don't know what's best for me. You don't know what's best for me. And there is a decision point where the boy needs to decide to become the man, and the man is the leader. This is why it's specifically for men. The man is the leader. The masculine is the leader. Now, all the feminists listening to this can get over themselves, right? Because every strong woman, every capable, every independent woman who has a feminine core desperately wants their masculine to still be the leader in and out of the bedroom, right? Desperately. I'm an incredibly successful woman. All the women I know that are incredibly, we run our own businesses, we own our own property, whatever. Got it, nailed it, done. Oh my God, where is my man? Right? Because there aren't a lot of men, they're still being little boys. And this makes our society very dangerous right now, because we don't have men that are dangerous but not a danger. We've got little boys who are afraid to rock the boat and go against what daddy says, and daddy is running the government right now, and daddy is running big pharmaceutical right now, and daddy archetype is still telling little boys what to do in a patronizing way, and little boys are still going, okay, you're right, I should get a job and work till I get the gold watch. It doesn't exist. The pension doesn't exist anymore. The world that our parents raised us in does not exist anymore. So anyone who hasn't made the decision to say, thank you, family, I respect everything you've given me, but I respectfully decline that model of living.
Yeah.
And I choose to be the leader, the new leader of this family, right? That's what is happening. That's what happened to you that triggered this conversation. And that's what men are avoiding, because the only 2 archetypes they've been given is Prince Charming, which is actually just little boy. I'll give you all the money and you better sit still, look pretty. Boring. Or mummy's boy moves out of mummy's house into new mummy's house. Boring. Or Peter Pan, who's like, don't tell me what to do. Nah, don't tell me what to do. don't ever want to grow up, want to value freedom. Well, freedom is just rejection of responsibility. But a man, a masculine, and this goes for all the women's internal masculine as well, is the acceptance of responsibility. Now, as a divine feminine, I will have a level of acceptance of responsibility that causes stability, but still allows for a lot of functional flow, because I'm still a woman and I'm like, wee, with the moon cycles, right? Because I am only ever going to be at most a 60% feminine, 40% masculine. Whereas for you, who wants to be a 60, 70, 80% masculine and have a 40, 50, 40, 70, whatever it is, feminine, the polar, if you want that polarity, which is where your sex life is, if you want that polarity, which is where your leadership, where your success, your results, all of the money is going to come to you through your masculine channels when you make the decision to be the leader of your family, to be the head of your family, to say, thanks, oldies, step aside. It is time for new leadership. Fresh blood. You are old. You're set in your ways. Respectfully, you were right before the internet. Now you are very, very wrong. Okay. Does that make
That's
sense?
absolutely. I see just recently I've stepped into being a man in a weird way,
Go
purely
on.
from the fact of I can speak my truth to my mum without being afraid of consequence. Where
Yeah.
back then I was like, oh, if I say I did this with my dad a long time ago, but then I did it with my mum. This is the realization that I had. How can I really be a man or speak my truth about the work I'm doing in the world if I can't speak my truth to my mum because I'm afraid of the control or possible manipulation in my own head that's been happening or the backlash? And then when I look around, I'm like, what actually is the backlash? It was all perceived in my own head. And then
Yeah.
I've spoken to a ton of men about the same thing. So I truly, my new philosophy of like, how can a man really be a man with everything you've said, concur completely. But if he can't speak his truth to his mum or his dad
Yes.
in a respectful
Because
tone, not like like there was a part of me was like, fuck you. But then I'm like, where did that lead? I'm like saying it, thank you with love and moving forward with love. And then not,
mm,
I think you told me this, not being responsible for her emotions and her fit that she might be having because the dynamics now changed. Now
yes.
she's going through that at the moment, a huge fit.
Yeah, absolutely. So she should be, because if you step into your masculine, she should go into her feminine. That is the shit fit is brilliant. It is evidence that you've stepped into your masculine, right? It's evidence that she is no longer parent, she is now in child tantrum. It is wonderful evidence, but people are afraid of that. They're
Yeah.
afraid of that aspect.
I've been
And
afraid of
and
that my
they're
whole life. I'll admit that.
yeah, oh,
Yeah.
fair. Absolutely fair enough. And so, because the thing is, as a child, you need your big people to set the course. You need your big people to take the lead, because you don't know enough about consequences to know whether you should go left or right.
Hmm.
You don't know what is right or wrong. You don't know that yet. So as a child, you need to have blind faith in their leadership. Now, if they're great, great. If they're suck, oh dear. It's all right. I'll be in a job for another few generations yet with all the shit going on in this world, right? But when they have, even if they've screwed you up the worst as a parent, like done the worst kind of parenting, that will still have allowed you to decide how you want to be. Okay. So this is the essence of masculinity. It's why leadership was so, masculinity is so easy for me to teach, because it is old school leadership. It is decisiveness. It is hold the vision. It is see the potential pitfalls. It is charting a course and having absolute trust that you are taking responsibility for everybody that you are choosing to bring with you on that course, right? The reason you need to do the work that you're being called to do right now is so that when your parents are old and grey and can't earn any money anymore, you've got the money to look after them, right?
Hmm.
big part of it. So you
But
can't.
it's not the only. But it's not the only part. That's the thing you can
No, of
distinguish.
course.
Yeah.
Of course. But what I'm saying, the way I'm saying it like that is, so many people say, I want to be able to, provide for my family when they're old and grey, but they're afraid to argue with their family. So the problem is that if you live according to mum's rules of what you should do and don't speak your truth around the sexuality, around all this work that you're doing, then at best you're going to get pension plus whatever stability standard society approved investment strategy you're allowed to invest in, right?
Mm,
That does not necessarily guarantee you can look after your family, your children, and your parents if you want to. It doesn't guarantee that anymore. The world's changed,
yeah.
right? So what worked for them will not work for you. You can't parent your children the way they parented you. The world, they never had phones to deal with. Therefore, you cannot parent your children the way they did, just from that simple fact alone.
Yeah.
So you have to decide that you are willing to scare them because you know best now, right? You are now the youngest and the fastest and the strongest of the hunter of the tribe. So there comes a point, this plays out in so many different dynamics, but there comes that point where it's not being afraid to lose the relationship. It's because that's what it is in couples. It's, you need to decide to focus on your fullest expression of self, potentially risking losing the relationship, because if you focus on the relationship, you'll potentially screw it up by not being the best version of yourself, right? You'll
Yeah.
hold back. And if you're holding back, then you're not speaking your ultimate truth, which means you're not being vulnerable, which means you're not having intimacy, which means your sex life sucks. These all go hand in hand. But it's more than that with parents, because it's the relationship, and it's the, you are choosing to say thank you for the conditioning that you gave me. Thank you for the stencil of my brain about right and wrong. And I'm choosing to upgrade it now. And that takes a
Mm,
level of disconnecting from the programming you've lived on your entire life. So that's why
yeah.
it can be more challenging.
Yeah. I hear you, and I just see that's the rite of passage.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
is the rite of passage, and I think David Data talks about it. Live like your father was dead. So I can see some of the
Yes.
correlations to that as well, and then the
Yeah.
correlation with like, hang on a second, if I wasn't doing this, and the amount of work I've done in my self, like like probably about 120,000 plus easily, and then the actual key is, which is the hardest one, to speak my truth to my mum and my dad, regardless of how they're going to respond.
Yeah.
Still coming from a loving place and not like, fuck you, you should like, which is really tough. And then allowing, but then also sitting in that and allowing them to go through their own process. Like, wow, I'm becoming the elder in your terms, which you said, which is very eloquently put together. And now I'm becoming the leader. I'm like, oh, that's a really great distinction. And then now my
Yeah.
mum actually gets to be in her feminine of, even if it's like a little girl chucking a tantrum.
Yeah.
This is so powerful because most men will never do that their whole life, and they're married their mother, it-
I married the
and
mother.
then they're afraid to say to their wife what they really think or what's
Hmm.
really going on, their deepest truth, because they've never been
Hmm.
able to do it to a woman. Where I feel in a weird way, I don't make this about me, I don't want this to be universal, but I bypassed that through learning stuff, but
Yep.
still, I still had to go through, because I learned technical things, but I didn't
Yeah.
actually. Every man has to get to that point, and woman, to go to their mother and father. Here's my deepest truth, and I'm not afraid to. I'm not trying to offend you. I'm just expressing what's true for me.
Yeah.
That,
Well, the
you
gift
know how
of,
powerful this is. If you like, this is
yeah. Yeah.
so.
So the gift of working with me, not to big note myself, it's just the capacity that I hold, because I hold space for the mother wounding, right? And I can do father as well. I can hold both energies, which means you get to work through what most people do in relationships. So most relationships, you'll date your family. And if you manage to heal that, then you'll date your shadows. And if you manage to heal that, then you'll date your true self. For me, I hold space for you to work through those so you don't need to go through divorce, divorce, divorce. Right?
Yeah.
I hold space for that because I will show up as your family and you will see in me everything that your family is and we'll work through it. You'll have your tantrum at me and I'll hold you through it because I don't have the same response that they did. Right. So that's why you can theoretically learn this stuff, but until you've got someone witnessing that shame that you feel, holding space, I expect my clients to tantrum at me, blame me for everything, want to hang up the phone, and I just phone you straight back. Nice try, right? Because it's that true unconditional love aspect of I see you in your wholeness, and I will wait for you to shed your shadows to get there. It's that energy, right? But what is the point of doing all the personal development work on yourself? You now know better than them. That's like going to university to learn how to be a surgeon and then having someone's broken leg in front of you and mum saying, I know what to do. And you're like, okay, you're mum, so I'll let you be the surgeon right now. Did she go to uni? No. Did she ever study how to be a surgeon? No. She just broke her leg one day, or mummy said, you know what I mean? Like, why would you go to uni to spend all this money to get a skill to be an electrician and then let dad still fix the electrical wiring? And you can watch him doing it wrong because you're a trained and qualified electrician now. That you can stand there and watch your dad about to physically electrocute himself. And this is what guys are doing. They are literally standing by with a fully certified trade because they've done the personal development, watching their dad about to electrocute themselves and going, oh, we probably shouldn't do that, but not saying anything because it's dad.
Yeah. Yeah. It's this is so huge. And
Yeah.
this is huge for anyone watching.
Yeah.
And one of the most toughest things of breaking through that, because how can you actually have a healthy dynamic relationship with a man or a woman if you can't speak your deepest truth to your parents?
Intimacy is vulnerability. And if you can't be vulnerable and intimate with yourself,
Yeah,
you
exactly.
need to value your relationship with yourself more highly than your partner and much more highly than your parents,
Mm-hmm.
because that's what's happening. It's relationship with self. It's how well do I know me? And if I know me, I can trust me. And if I trust me, then I can take responsibility for everyone that I choose to bring with me.
Yeah. Just as the case study, when I did it, it felt like a sense of sadness for my little boy, and then also a deep sense of relief, like, oh,
Mm,
I
mm,
can breathe. I felt like that weight of I can't really speak. I was bypassing it from all the stuff, as I said. So I knew I wouldn't do this in relationship. I had all these other weird things in relationship, which is
mm.
another story. But then I'm like, I'm not going to get walked over. But then now it's like, okay, this is what's going to create depth and harmony and so much more like stability in relationship. And as you said, the polarity. Because how many guys go, why won't you just give me a blowjob? It's been a while. And then they go, hey, I got you some flowers or I got you some chocolate. I'm like, you look really nice. And then she knows, like, all I want you to do is speak your truth to me and
Mm.
actually say what you mean. Oh, but,
Yep. Yeah.
oh,
And that's the thing. I walked away from the love of my life because he wouldn't let me in. That's all. Just let me in. If you're going to hold yourself back, we can't have vulnerability, so we can't have intimacy, so our sex life is going to suffer. You can come back when you're ready to let me in properly. But also, because he's the masculine, I have to let him lead in the physical.
And how
right?
can you
I
trust
have
him
to
as
be
well?
able to, that's it. That's
How can
exactly right.
how can you trust him to let? How can you truly surrender and trust him if he's not in his leadership, and then you feel like you've got to hold
That's
him?
right.
So then you're like this weird dynamic where she's like, I can't let go, or you can't let go as
That's
a
right.
feminine, and then he's like, well, she won't let go. I'm like, yeah, she's not letting go because she doesn't trust you, because you know that deep down you're bullshitting yourself and not speaking your truth to her.
That's right. Because women are pretty fucking smart, right?
Yes, they
We will
are.
test you. We will test you emotionally to see if we can trust you physically. Because this all comes back to having babies covered in blood in a cave. When the saber-toothed tiger comes to attack, are you going to cry like a little boy, or are you going to man the fuck up and kill the tiger? And this is why this is so important right now, right?
Mhm.
Because she is literally laying in the cave covered in blood, calling for you, screaming out at you every name under the sun, saying, why aren't you here? You're an asshole because you're not here holding my hand. Why aren't you here? I need my man to even be a leader against me. He needs to know that even I don't know best in that moment, because he is so clear on his job of protecting me that he won't even let me sway him from that decision to stand guard against the external saber-toothed tiger. Your masculinity should be so clear on your vision that you see danger that your woman can't see. Your for parents can't see. Your team members can't see, because it's your vision for your family. You are the leader. You trust yourself to have done the work. Now, you allow wise counsel. Wise leader allows wise counsel, but you are the one that makes the ultimate decision. Humble leader, let everyone give you their strength and their opinion, and you weigh all of that against your truth, your vision, your education, your learning, right? Your wisdom. Now, and the scariest thing about that is that requires you, when you decide, when you take that responsibility of leader, you are the one responsible if it fails. And that's what most are avoiding. They would much prefer to continue to blame mummy, daddy, wife, child, team, than go, this is the vision, this is where we're going, this is the course we charted. Fuck, got it wrong. Got it wrong.
Mm, so true.
Resonating, huh?
Yeah.
I got
I
another little bit of
when
questions too.
when I went through that, it was in in resonance with what you're saying of how can I deeply trust myself when I was trusting my mum. So there's that dynamic. Oh, she's still right. And then when I had that
Mm,
convo, what happened? I elevated. I'm like, this is just a deep reminder to trust myself. Exactly
you
what you
know,
said. Because if not, I'll be putting my trust in my mum with her stuff or my dad, whatever it would be. Instead, when I
mm,
go, I get to speak my truth, and I'm like, hear what they say, come back to my truth.
yeah.
That's what changed. I'm like, this is just a deep reminder. Trust me. That was huge, resounding when that came through. And when I did that with my dad, collapsed. When I did that with my mum, like, oh, now I'm the fucking
Mm,
man
mm,
because of the truth I can share.
yeah,
And it just, that's the,
yeah.
like,
And
all
for a
this
lot of,
other all this other personal development work, what does it matter, Fee? Like, that's what I mean. Like, I'm looking at it now. It's like, yeah, cool, you can do X, even if you got the money, car, body, all the external things, or even if you've done a cacao ceremony. I know you do beautiful ones, nothing against that, but you get what I mean. Like, you do all
oh,
the
I have
fucking
a
stuff.
lot against,
So,
yeah.
so across the board, it doesn't matter if you can't do this because you're not really speaking your truth because of the fear. I'll speak for myself because of the fear I had of the actual lack of the no consequences, but the emotional consequences that I felt. And then I look back and like there actually isn't any consequences. And you said it's a responsibility piece that I would just be like, no, I don't want to have that responsibility.
That's right.
And to get
That's right.
all that, to really have that, and for it to be sustainable, this is what the belief I had. No, this is what I set my to have all the physical symptoms for it to be sustainable. I need to be able to speak my truth to these part. If not, I'll get and lose.
That's it. Because the chaos is to distract you so that you don't have to speak your truth. The chaos is to have an excuse. If you've got chaotic money, you never have to take responsibility for decisions because you don't have the money, so you can't make the choice. But if
Yeah.
you've got $1 billion in your bank and someone comes to you with an offer, an opportunity, a request, you have to genuinely choose, do you say yes or no? Which requires you to potentially hurt someone. If they come to you and say, give me more money, and you've actually got the money to give them, and you know that giving the money to them is not good for them, not good for you, not good for the greater good, you have to then have the strength in you to say no to someone who could potentially have a tantrum. Good. Now you're a man. Now you're a leader. Now you are creating functional. And this is, we're just talking about children, you wanting to be a billionaire and not create just rich brat kids. That is, you create functional humans. Just because you have the money doesn't mean they always get the money. But most people avoid having the money, so they never have to teach their children how to be responsible, how to choose, how to know, how to receive a no, how to handle rejection, how to actually come to them with a plan, how to accept consequences. There's so many things that people would prefer to just throw money at it or not have any money and not have to make those decisions.
It goes like that as well for me. And I can imagine how it'd be for other people as well, very similar. I'm not going to say no to this person who's asking for money because then like this big flash of my mum or dad might pop up and how their consequences, because I haven't dealt with that. Holy shit, that
Mm.
is too much to
Mhm.
handle. I'll just say yes and be the nice guy, but deep down like, fuck you, I
Mr.
can't
Nice
believe I
Guy is
did that.
dangerous.
And
Mhm.
then I gave the money, but then it's like I keep doing that over and over, then he explodes. That's actually what's going on behind the scenes. Then it's like, okay, great, I spoke my truth to my parents now, and I've dealt with that huge level of them going through their, oh my God, they're now becoming the elder, but then I'm stepping into going no to this person who asked for money. They might kick off a little bit, but it's like, it's okay. This is minuscule compared to that kickoff for them becoming elder.
That pattern right there is how Hitler came to power.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Mr. Nice Guy agrees with Mr. Nice Guy, says, you're right, Daddy. Let me reject that person. Yeah, you're right. You should have that money. I'm a nice person. Rise of the dictator. Because
Yeah.
nobody is strong enough to stand up to, actually, no, I don't agree with that. All right. When it was little. And then suddenly it's too big to stand up to. Right?
Mm.
But this is why women right now are in a lot of danger because we do not have men making this decision. We got a bunch of little boys running around with their fingers on triggers. We are scared. As a woman, as a divine feminine, I am fucking terrified. The fact that the America was able to reverse the abortion laws overnight, if you haven't watched The Handmaid's Tale, what is going on in our society right now is the precursor to the movie, the series, The Handmaid's Tale, where women become slaves again. Women overnight have their bank accounts turned off and go back to whatever a man tells them they need to do, right?
Mm.
If you are not as scared about that future as I am, you are not paying attention. And the reason it is so close is because of this conversation, because there's a bunch of little boys that don't want the responsibility, being given responsibility and just doing what daddy says was best. And now the retaliation to what other people are trying to agree. Now there's this polarization and it is a dangerous state because we don't have dangerous men, right? The war on masculinity.
Men who will say no.
Yeah. I want my man to be dangerous, but not a danger. I want him to be able to kill so that he knows he won't. I don't want someone who can't. That is not safe for me. That is not safe at all. And we've got a whole society of little boys that can't because they grew up in
Or
daddy's factories and they
or they
don't
think
need
they
to.
they think they can, and that's even more dangerous, and then they act out.
So scary, right? but they've not learned humility. So they only got the polarization instead of this, which is true leadership, is knowing I can do everything and I can choose, which is why the rites of passage were so critical, because they learned to hunt, not kill. There's a very big difference.
Yeah, it's changing a lot of the way I'm like, even just this conversation alone and what I've been thinking about for like the last 2 weeks,
Mm,
like I've got to change my work a lot. Like I'm purely just going to stick down to the sexuality part because this is so much deeper than most life coaches or I know
yeah.
you're NLP and hypnosis, but it's different, like which they generalize. It's like I'm gonna
Mm,
help you just go to, it's so much more like if you can't do these two things, which is like it's a tough thing to get to that point,
mm,
how you're not actually living your life, you're constantly living under the umbrella of your parents, and that's
yeah.
what's dangerous. And then you're
Yeah.
just gonna, yeah,
Yeah.
and
And I
that's
love
why so
that for
many,
you because they are the symptoms. Yeah. Yeah. Especially the two that you've chosen are the two that are like, it's the most socially taboo to talk about, but everybody needs to talk about it. It's like it's applicable to everybody, but it's taboo to talk about it. So it's old school button down, right and wrong. Good boys don't. With good boy society is our issue right now. The good boys are fucking us up. The good boys are really causing all the problems right now because good boys do whatever daddy says, which
yeah,
is very, very scary, right?
yeah,
Um, but they're
yeah,
also the two that if the only way for that to work is for men to be men, because they're the only, like, it requires a woman to soften, to feel safe, to feel vulnerable, to feel protected, which you can only achieve if you
mm,
are a true divine masculine.
yeah. And this is where I can see pickup has a blind spot because you can learn the behavior, but
Mhm.
still you're bypassing what I did anyway. I bypassed actually speaking truth to my mum, where I'm like, I knew deep down, like, if I let her get away with X behavior, then it's going to lose the player. So you learn skill, but then still I'd say something and then still pop up like, I don't want to upset my mum. So I'm like,
It
okay, so
actually,
I'm living in fear. So it's like
mm,
constant living in fear. But even though I'm like, I'll say the thing because I know it needs to be happen for that moment to allow her to feel safe. But it's not, it's a pseudo safety. But then what
no.
actually happened, it's like it's not true depth of safety until moved
It
through
actually
that.
creates split personality, and it's the precursor to bipolar and multiple
Yeah.
personality. Because what happens is then you have the good boy that talks to mum, and then you have the sexual deviant, or in my case, it was good girl and festival fee. So you have one that shows up when you're sober at work, one that
Mm.
shows up when you're drunk, or
Yeah.
one that talks to your parents, and one that talks to the women in the bar, and they can't connect. And the problem with that work is if you're bypassing, you will create an actual boundary in your brain and they won't even know the other part exists. And everything that this part does, this one doesn't have access to. So everything that's fun or free or vulgar, or like everything that good boy thinks is wrong, the other part does, which makes them actually extreme. This is where you're really weird sex fetish or polyamory in the toxic way is coming in, because it's actually just expression of everything that's not good boy, everything good boy is not allowed to do. And it requires going to an extreme because they can't feel, because feelings are stuck on one side or the other. So there's this
Mm-hmm.
pure, and then it becomes that porn sex. Women are describing it like they'll be in the bedroom with someone and then they just can't feel anything because the man moves into porn sex. It's horrible. It's horrible. But the man can't be nurturing and kind because that's good boy's role, and good boy's not welcome in the bedroom. It's a whole thing. Trust me, the conversations the girls and I are having over a glass of wine right now, boys,
Is it
yikes,
disassociation? Yeah. It's a
total
huge
disassociation.
disassociation. Yeah.
Yeah. And it causes an actual neurological parts conflict that is exactly the same as someone with multiple personality disorder, someone with schizophrenia. It's exactly the same. Anyone doing the spiritual bypassing work is creating schizophrenic parts.
Yep. I can see that.
That's why
So
this work is so important.
it's there's no bypassing it. That's the thing. You think you that the from this conversation as well, and what I've been thinking, It's like you can't actually bypass it until you get to that point of speaking your truth to your mum and dad. That's the
Yep.
overarching thing. Until you get to that point and you can sit in that leadership,
Yeah.
everything else is a bit of a joke and a bit of a facade.
Yeah. Now, I want to bring it back to tribal because it was so clean then in the tribal culture and it's not now.
Yeah.
But the
Yeah.
reason it was so clean then, and I want to talk about age in this because this is confirming what my theories has been theorizing in my brain for a while now. You think about, we'll go back to caveman primitive culture days. So the average lifespan was about 30 years,
Hmm.
right? So there was birth, then there was physical sexual maturity, so that ability to actually produce sperm, have eggs, have babies was around the age of between 12 and 15 kind of thing. That's when men were going through rite of passage, women were going through rite of passage. Then they became adult, which simply meant that they could have procreation, they could have babies.
Hmm.
So that was also the peak of physical prowess. So that would become when they would be stepping into the hunter. And if you look at athletes today, they're dead by 30, right?
Yeah.
Most athletes have peaked by early 20s and are dead by 30. So it's
Yeah.
physical peak. You're at the head of the leader of the society, but then the young buck would come in, kill the old man, take physical leadership. So it's all based around that physical leadership, that physical, literally, if the young ones didn't come in and get rid of the old ones, no one
Yeah.
would eat. If little boys didn't learn how to hunt and provide for the family physically from the elders, the whole tribe would die. So rites of passage were a survival thing back then. It's why they happened. Okay. Then invent technology, invent ability to live forever, invent factories, invent everything. So we are now moving away from the society of survival and proximity and into the society of genuine choice, because there are no man's roles and there are no women's roles anymore. There is physically nothing, like, I don't know if we're there yet or we're on the fence of it, but I'm pretty sure somewhere somebody is putting a baby in a man's belly and making it work, right? That is the last thing that we need a physical female for, right? But we can still build it in a bubble somewhere. Like, I
Not,
guarantee that
not
there are
even the
babies.
man's, not even a man's body, and just in chambers. They're actually
Right,
working on technology at the
exactly.
moment. Yeah.
Exactly, right. So there is now physically nothing, because of technology, nothing that says man or woman. So physical rite of passage, physical journey has to change. So that is where, but that's where we got lost. So that's why little boys aren't growing up, because we lost rite of passage, because they don't need to hunt. They just go to Coles. They don't need to. And they can stay a little boy their entire life. They never needed to club the old. And the old were like, screw that, I'm not letting go. So until the elder steps down, I see this in societies all over the place where the olds get in the society and the youngs try and come in and make changes. And the olds are such in their ego, they won't let the youngs come in. And so the youngs leave. So the agricultural societies, for example, they die. The whole thing shuts down. That entire community group shuts down because the olds didn't make way for the youngs. There is a gap in the middle. There are children and there are olds. But the men in the middle, the leaders in the middle, the changing of the guards needs to happen. It needs to come back in society. Now, what I love is that now we understand that the human brain is not a fully formed adult brain until the age of 28, right? 28 is when you are a fully formed adult brain. Now, we still have neuroplasticity, so it's constantly changing. But we used to believe that the brain was fully set by the age of about 12 or something dumb, or 18, right? Then you're an adult and now you can drink and it doesn't matter. No, not true. Not true. What I love is that there is something in spirituality or astrology called a Saturn return or a solar return or something that all happens to everyone about the age of 28. Go figure that that matches with, that is when your brain is an adult now,
Hmm.
which is when you should be beginning to say, all right, thanks, adults. Time for the young buck to rise. because it's not like the peak at 16. Now the peak should be at 28. Now you watch your journey, you map your own personal journey at that time, at that age. That's when you were actually fucking everything up because you were trying to step out as your identity, but you were still doing it within the conditioning of your parents. So the only way for you to prove that you're a man now was to implode a relationship, was to screw up a bunch of stuff, was to try and build a great business, but with old rules and not speaking your truth. And there was a bunch of chaos that went on between 28 and 32. And then 32, you're like, fuck this. I'm going to claim I'm going to be the leader. And
Uh,
you
only,
watched your life.
only 2 weeks ago.
That's
I
it.
said only as of 2 weeks ago. Even all the deep work we did that led me to this moment. But
Mm-hmm.
I really agree with that because yeah, on paper, I had 1.8, nearly 2 million on paper,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then I had the model girlfriend with fake boobs. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
yay.
Yeah. Did
And
everything
then I
right
had
according to
and
mummy and
then I
daddy's.
had and then I had two guys closing deals, and then 20 grand we made that day for my birthday. That was my 30th, and I hired a whole resort in COVID time, so it was super affordable then. But at the same time, regardless, I'm like, great, I'm grateful, but I'm like, it didn't feel real. And that the real piece. And I had a chat with a guy the other day. He's like, oh well, I told him all that. And he goes, well, because he's let's just say he doesn't get it. And he goes, he just saw like, oh wait, you had it all together. He goes, what the fuck happened to you, mate? I'm like, it's another story, but let's not go there.
You
But
became a man.
I just said, but the stability that I've achieved and obtained now is far more rewarding
When
across
you're
the
a leader.
board than anything. And it's the thing, I can have that money and so much more. And
Yeah.
people, if not, it would have been lost in the same way from a conscious or an unconscious event or by
Yeah.
my own doing. So that's
That's
why
it.
I'm like, oh, and anytime that I feel that I want to not speak my truth, and I see this with the clients I talk to my own dad or my mom,
Mm.
that's what's deeply affecting the rest of my life.
It is.
And if
It
and if
really.
how can a man really step up and go, you know what? Let's the vaccine COVID, if believe it or not, like if you can't even stand up to your own mum and dad, how are you going to stand up to the mummy and daddy state, which
That's
most
right.
people didn't. So that's where I see a huge,
That's the beginning of the Handmaid's Tale.
and if they
Exactly what.
can, and the biggest thing that they're doing, they're trying to break up families. If they're trying to do that, so that's not a coherent family
Yeah.
union,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's what's creating so much
That's it.
dysfunction.
And they need followers, not leaders. Because if you're a leader, they're fucked because it's obviously stupid, right? So, and that's the general for everything in society right now. If you can
Hmm,
see a leader knows who they are, they knows their own mind, they know their own priorities, they know how best to get everyone to where they are going. They are a humble leader, knows what's good for them, good for others, good for the greater good. So what you're doing when I say leader, you are now becoming the king. It's not this old bullshit monarchy where we wait till Charlie's fucking too old and past it and dead, and then William steps up. William should be the king now. But archaic monarchy that's keeping the olds alive on artificial life forms, no. William should be the king now. If we were actually honoring the cycle of peaks and flows of life, William would be king.
makes
But we
sense.
can't because humans are smarter than that, right? No. The person in their prime should be the king, should be the leader of their family unit. And their family unit, because they are the king. So the other part of this is guys often say to me, oh, I used to do all this risky behavior like the big wave surfing or, skydiving or whatever. I loved all of that. But now, I'm a bit more hesitant to risk. And I'm like, yeah, because men have an ingrained uh your wiring forces you to want to explore death. And so that's why little boys will kill things, burn ants with magnifying glass, do risky behavior, because it's a inherently masculine trait to navigate and negotiate with death. It is just, that's actually a masculine trait of a
Mm.
little boy. So there is a part of the little boy experience, and then you learn through the rite of passage what it actually means to kill. Now, I'm a farm girl, so I know what it is, how to take an animal's life. I know how to do all of that. I know the respect of honoring the life because
Mhm.
of the genuine witnessing of the entire cycle of it. We don't have that in society right now, and it's sad. I would love to bring that back, where people genuinely raise a calf from birth to death and understand the process of that, because it will shift a lot in your humility and your thinking. But that's what little boys will be, the death experience. That will be what they're trying to explore. Then when they become man, leader, king, now you have something to live for. Now you are creating the sanctuary, the safe place and protection to raise the next little boy, little girl, right? So yes, your tolerance for risky physical death behavior should go down as you slow down. So as you get older,
Mm.
you should be drawn to more stabilizing activities if you are on a true divine masculine path. So your
Yeah.
desire now to go, fuck the chaos, I am done. I am now into stability. I only want to harness stable growth, protection for me and my family and future generations of legacy. Because you got to also remember that men don't have the ability to leave a legacy. You can't ever prove that it's your baby until after the DNA test is done. Women, I saw it come out, it's mine, right? And this stems from that purely evolutionary point where they didn't know where babies came from. They knew
Yeah.
babies came from women and they thought the spirits put them in there.
Yeah, I also
Right?
see it as like, how can a man be a man? I'd love to hear from your point of view from the women's point, or just like touch on the men's stuff. How can a man truly be a man? Like, if he's like, I'm gonna go fight, I'm gonna go make a ton of money, or I'm gonna go make love to a lot of women, I'm gonna do all these things, and then I can actually confront my dad and say, I'm the man now. But then the dad, and then like they're living scared because they need to have sex with more women, they need to make more money, or they need to be a better fighter, when really it's just like that fear of actually confronting their dad and having that truth and being
Well,
able to
that's
go, that's how I see a point of it. I'm like, what would it be for women? Like a similar aspect where it's like being to be valuable in society as a woman, you need to make money and compete with men. That's dangerous, as we know.
oh
And that's where I
yeah,
see
yeah. Well,
that.
it's so when you think of little boy, the distance it from the actual parental unit, it's follower. Is little boy is follower. It's do what I'm told,
Hmm.
right? So in current society, one of the sad things I see, especially men around your age, where there are actually a lot of you wanting to take the true masculine path, you turning 31, 32, going, right, I'm ready for one woman and traditional relationship. We raise a family. We want to run a business. I want my career. I want my woman. I want our family. I want that. But society says, don't do that. You're a new age man. You should have many women. You should have millions. You should do that, like whatever. So it's follower mentality is do what society tells you should do at any age, whether that's your
Hmm.
dad, your mom, the general we, society, your mates, but it's society conditioning versus I know what I want and I'm going for it. I don't care what you say because I
Yeah.
know best for me and mine, right? So for women, our experience of that is what I went through, which is all I ever wanted to be was a mum. But in my 20s, everyone said, oh, you're too young. Oh, no, don't do that. Go get a career. You can do anything. You can take over the world. I'm like, well, yeah, I can. And so I did because I thought I should until I went, I don't want any of that. I actually don't. And now the stupid thing now, I'm in my 40s and now they're going, oh, you're not too old. You could have a baby. Why don't you just go and adopt? Why don't you just go and get a sperm donor? I'm like, are you fucking insane? Like, no, I want big bucks, easy money, and in a beautiful, loving relationship that overflows into a baby or none of it.
Mm.
Right? And it's rejection of, I'm a feminist, so now I shouldn't want a family. If you want a family, have a family. If you don't want a family, don't have a family. Like, genuinely make the decision that's right for you, whether you're male or female.
That's what I was about to say before. It's like it's not about the divine masculine. I don't think he said this intentionally, or maybe I
Mm.
misinterpret. It's like if a man doesn't want to have a family and kids, but he knows that his call, that's the truth for him, that's his true calling, go for that. But if it is like go forth and do that without where I wanted to do it, but I was very skewed, and then you helped me believe like, hey, here it is, Mike. I want family, kids. I can't wait to be a dad. It's gonna be incredible. I'm sure
Yeah.
challenge pros and cons again, but I'm
Yeah.
excited about that. And there's a lot of men who like who want this, but they yeah, you know what I mean. So
So this touches on, so there's a level of work that I do at the moment around our values, and I think there's 5 layers of values. Martini doesn't talk about 5, I do. So
mm,
5 layers of value. Number 1 is your core energetics. Are you masculine or feminine? Are you career or family? Because if you get those wrong, it'll fuck up your entire life. If you
mhm,
get those right, it doesn't matter what you do, it'll be successful. So you are masculine, family. I am feminine, family, right? There are there are a set of people who are masculine career, feminine career. But there are a lot of people who are currently masculine career and feminine career because they are trauma rejection of family. It is a
mm.
trauma or societal conditioning to go for more and more and more and success and success and success. So I think there are a lot of closet family driven men that aren't allowed to be family driven men.
Yep, I agree because when I'm around my family that I have, I'm like that is what I want. That is true. But
Yeah.
I'm like, oh no, it's like running business, and I think yeah, you're right. There's so many men who are like, masculine equals run successful business or do that. I'm like, no, you can still make the money in the business. But I'm like, great, I
No.
got my business, but then I'm like, I want to
But
have
you're
family, and
only you're only inspired to run your business and succeed for your family, Andrew. You only ever have
yeah, I
always
agree.
only ever been
I
right.
agree.
Always.
I'm not inspired to run the business just to run business and talk about
Nope.
business and marketing
Nope.
principles where and I
Nope.
see
Nope.
I'm like, no.
Nope. You are masculine family.
Makes
And
sense, yeah.
Isabel's feminine family. You guys work beautifully. And what it means is everything else that comes under that, every business structure must be designed to support your family. Flexibility around your family. Your family comes with you. If you don't have that family in mind first, everything supports your family, you'll sabotage the business. Whereas I know guys that are masculine career and they are just they are love. They love the career track. All they want to do is become this promotion, then they go for this promotion, then they go for this. They've no interest in a family. But society says you should have a family. So then they pop out these kids they don't want, they don't talk to, and then we create rich kids, right? Rich kids come from people that are actually core career driven, forced by society to have a family because they get a certain age and they're told they should have fucking kids right now.
Yeah.
No, no.
For sure.
There can be masculine family with feminine career where he's a stay-at-home dad and a stay-at-home dad, and that will work beautifully if she goes back to work. But if you
Mhm.
don't get those right and you're trying to build in the wrong or wrong orientation,
That's
it'll ruin you.
yeah, that is so true.
Yeah. This
Powerful.
is so good. I'm so grateful for this conversation. And I am deeply saddened that the world is like this, but also I'm full respect that this is the work that we're here to teach. This is what we are genuinely here to do. The world is
I'm not here to I'm not here to teach that, sorry. Like
no,
I'm not putting my hand up for that. I respect your path. I'll help men become sexually liberated and free within themselves, but I'm not going to teach this. This is a path that I maybe will possibly teach in 10, 15, 20 years time if I
You
feel
just
like I'm
keep
not doing it.
stepping into being the leader. That's your work is to
I was going
do.
to be me. I'm saying that's your zone. I'm like, this is not my zone. So I thank you for putting us under that umbrella, but it's not. I know my zone, and
Stay in your zone. Such a masculine. It's beautiful. It's really beautiful. But yeah, really grateful that you have made the decision to step into being the leader of your family. The family unit orients, you go from child of a family unit to leader of a family unit, and you've stepped into leader of a family unit. With all of the grief and all the tantruming and everything else that goes around that, the more you're in your masculine leadership, the more you should be seeing tantrums around you.
yeah, it's so true. And the work this is the actual work. I think this could be like a good intro video for someone who wants to work with you just from seeing that, because that's actually taking them to, hey, I'm going to take you to this place where you get to speak your truth to your mum or your dad.
Yeah.
That's how I see it. Because if not, it's like everything else is a fugazi in a way. So
Yeah. Yeah. My role as coach is I will be unconditionally loving to you. There is nothing that you can do that will make me love you any less. But
mhm,
I'm also not attached to your drama. So I won't be unconditionally tolerant to you. And that's a big distinction. I think a lot of, people take this out on their partner or they take this out on their parent and they're not able to hold the space to do the deep work. It just comes out over time and it comes out through mistakes and it comes out through issues and, just little T trauma, more stuff because they're so attached to the relationship. I'm not attached. I am attached to who you want to become. I am attached to who I expect you can be. I see only your greatness. I don't see any of the other stuff. And I can hold you to that and hold you through that. And I think that's the most important part of doing this work. It's if you truly want to be the leader of a family unit, if you want to be the leader of a business, if you want to be an amazing partner, lover, husband, wife, whoever you want to be, if you want to
mm,
be that, then you need to do the container of deep dive into intimacy, into me, I see, and vulnerability in a space that's safe. And that's what I do. That's why I'm so grateful to have that privilege.
I think this is what happened as well. So go off that. I stabilized my business, my
Mm,
finances, my relationship, sexuality, and whatever other area you can think of. That just got stable. And then there was
mm,
like that, like stable with my dad. And then it was like the one area that was left was my mum. And then I'm like, okay, I can have all this stability. Then okay, and I thought of that this other day. There's challenges, always going to be support challenges, DMartini work, but there's not going to
always.
be catastrophic fucking events that are like boom. So I
Mm,
you helped me stabilize a lot of these things. Gordon really helped me with the money and the business
mm,
aspect, and you helped me with the emotions under that stabilize that. But I see like then it got my okay, why is there still this imbalance? It was because I didn't have that conversation with my mum. I'm
yeah,
like, oh, okay. But then I see if so many guys can't even have this stable, we can't even really get to that point where you can do this. So that's why I'm
I
like,
know.
oh my God. So I listening to this on the recording, 5 months I've been doing the things to stabilize across all those, and it feels great.
Mm,
Then I had the capacity to go, what is this one thing? Because then I'm like, okay, I can see that this is the catastrophic roller coaster that I want to jump off. So I jumped off all
yeah.
the roller coasters, and you really helped me jump off all the roller coasters with that. And now
Mm,
it's like building this
mm.
opposed to that, which will end in disaster.
And the question is, am I still worthy of love when I speak my truth?
That's a great one.
That's why mum was so hard. Am I still worthy of love? Will I still be loved if I speak my truth? And why I'm saying it's okay that mum's having a tantrum or doing like whatever's going on for her. Because how many times did you do chaos and tantrum and mummy still loved you? Right? This is your time to speak your truth. She's now trying to speak her truth and not feeling loved right now. But you're speaking your truth. You didn't stop loving her. You spoke it because you love her. You won't go
Mm,
and indulge that behavior because you love her. You won't let your 3-year-old run into the street and eat ice cream for every meal because you love them. That's truth. That's true love is
yeah.
I love you enough to no longer tolerate the behavior that is hurting you.
And I'm going to speak my truth, and she can speak her truth, and we can come from that place instead of her speak her truth, and I better submit.
Yeah.
So then, okay, I don't want to rock the boat now. It's like, no, it's
Yeah.
this is the actual work, Fiona. All the stuff that this is so revolutionary just for like the depth of work that you're doing in the world, and also the work that I see men going through, because there's so many men running rites of passages when it comes to that. I'll run a sexual rite of passage for men, and of course there can be links of like them not speaking to the truth to their parents, and that can hold them back to actually full expression in the bedroom. I can understand that point of view. But when guys like, I'm gonna help a man be full rite of passage, and you're like, you're gonna go hunt a fucking deer, I'm like, or you're gonna go fucking be a grizzly bear in front of another man and let that go. I'm like, what in the fuck are you doing from
Mm,
that point of view?
one
So
part of it. It's not everything.
yeah.
Mind you, I did help a guy kill a moth once because he was afraid of a moth. And I was like, okay, that's the beginning of your rehab work. Let's just we got when I'm more manly around the physical than you are, that's probably where the source of your addictions is coming from. So, but it was exactly this pattern.
Yeah,
Exactly this
yeah.
pattern. Little boy. Little boy doing addictions. Same pattern.
I bless the work you're doing, and it's so powerful, and that's actually a really, really strong framework for that. Anyone listening to this, go forth, and it's not going to be easy, but it's going to be so, so worth it.
Worth it. Worth it for you, worth it for me, worth it for the greater good. Worth it for do this work because you love people. Do this work because you are worthy of love. Do this work because you are afraid of the world, and do this work because you're excited about what the world can be. All of it. It's
Yeah,
yes. Thank you. I am so grateful for this conversation. Yay.
I am too. You're amazing, and what a combo.
Oh, wow. That was fun. Thank you. Until the next time you've got something revolutionary to push my button and I'll rant about.
There we go.